Hello and welcome to the Daily Pour. My name is Chris Musgrove. We've been talking about how to break the cycle of unbelief, and it's by synchronizing yourself with the Holy Spirit. Synchronized with the Spirit. And I'm going to give you 5 things in the next few programs, but we're going to be reading. I told you we went to Hebrews 3 and 4 because the cycle of unbelief, the best example was the children of Israel in the wilderness. They went their own way. And we talked about that cycle. They kept going back, and God would get them out. They'd go back into rebellion and into complaining. But Hebrews chapter 3, verse 12 through 19 says this, beware. I like it. It starts out by beware. In other words, take note, brethren, lest there be any of you with an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily, while it is today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. I like that. Beware, lest you, any of you with an evil heart, departing to an evil heart of unbelief, departing from the living God. Man, it's easy to fall into unbelief, and unbelief will taint faith. You can have faith, but it can be tainted with unbelief. Verse 14 says, for we have become partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast to the end. While it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. In other words, hear his voice and act on his voice. Stay sensitive to the Spirit. Don't harden your heart. What does it do when you harden your heart? It's kind of like you get calluses on your hand and they're desensitized. And you can get calluses on your heart to where you're not sensitive to the things of the Spirit. You're not sensitive to the voice of the Lord. And that'll get you in big trouble. It's called rebellion. Verse 16 says, for who having heard rebelled, indeed was it not all who came out of Egypt, led by Moses? They all came out. Now with whom was he angry for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose corpses fell in the wilderness? And to whom did he swear that they would not enter his rest? But to those who did not obey. So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. Now, my definition of obedience is easy. It's found in, I think it's Genesis 22:5, where Abraham was going up on the mountain to worship. He says, I'm going up to the mountain to worship. He didn't have no guitar strapped on that donkey. He didn't have a banjo or a congo or a bongo. He was going up to sacrifice his son in obedience to God. That's worship. Worship is obedience. And you can substitute those words. Worship is obedience. I will worship the Lord with all my heart. I will obey the Lord with all my heart. You can transpose the word worship and obedience. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll do what I say. That's obedience. If you love God, you'll do what he says. And in Hebrews 4, 1 through 16, we're going to take breaks in this, but I want you to hear this. Therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear, and that's fear God and obey his commandments, lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed the gospel was preached to us as well as them, but the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. Now, Joshua and Caleb heard that word, and they had faith for it. They said, we can take the land. And they did go into the land. But the Israelites didn't, they didn't have faith. They definitely leaned into unbelief, and they got into rebellion. Lack of faith or unbelief will pull you away from God. And the gospel, the good news was preached to them just like it was us. And entering into the rest, a lot of people say, well, that's our promised land is heaven. No, there's giants in the land. There ain't no giants in heaven. There were giants in the land, but God said you can take the land. Now, the first thing I want you to see, that the number one thing that will help you synchronize with the Spirit is faith. You got to have faith. The Bible, and we're going to look at that next time because faith is the key. And I've got several scriptures I want to read to you, but I don't want to jump into that yet because I want to make sure you get it. So stay tuned for next time. We're going to be talking about the number one way to get synchronized with the Spirit is to have faith.